things that caught my attention was how different things look from sitting up in this high chair.
Yeah.
No, it's true.
Yeah,
Things
they
look
do.
very different. I found myself going, oh, I can actually see faces. It's interesting. So this idea of getting a new perspective is really, I think, really important. And so that's kind of what this is. This is an experiment. We're not sure how this is going to go. So we're just gonna get started. Do you want to take the first question?
Yeah. I got a good one here. Let's see. This is for you. Okay, this is
Great. This is
no,
great.
yeah. We'll discuss. My family is fundamental Christian, and they say we're a cult. Can you speak more about what Common Ground is about? So, that's a good question.
That is a good question, and I'm looking out there, and I can see about 6, 7 people I know in this congregation who could have asked that question, because a lot of us have family members that are either sticking with the same tradition that we grew up with as children, or they've found a new direction in fundamentalism at this point in their lives, and it's not always comfortable when you come from a spiritual community like Common Ground. Well, first of all, I guess for me, what I would say about this idea of cult is that Common Ground, even though we're not really part of a mainstream anything, we are definitely not a cult. There's nothing about Common Ground that fits the profile of a cult, because a cult has certain defining attributes. One of them is required beliefs. We have none. We have no required beliefs. Is that the truth? We're free to believe what we want to believe. Now, do we teach certain things? Absolutely. But do we require that any one of you, or even ourselves, believe anything? Absolutely not. The other thing is, usually a cult, or always a cult, has charismatic leaders. Now, we do have a charismatic leader. But the charismatic leadership in cults usually claim that leadership by authority of some sort of divine revelation, or some sort of special power, and require that everybody toe the line that's in the group. I haven't seen that here. That doesn't happen
I don't think
here.
so. Yeah.
And the other piece of a cult usually is they've got some sort of basic idea, and many cults have the idea around end times. And this is why we see things like Jim Jones and Waco, Texas, and some of those other kind of things. They had a San Diego experience where everybody had brand new tennis shoes and quarters in their shoes for the trip to wherever they were going when they committed suicide. So these are the kind of things that mark cults, and none of those things apply to us. Are we different? You betcha. Do we have a different way of being in the world? Absolutely. Are we spiritual community? Absolutely. Are we exclusive? Absolutely not. So I don't know.
Well, I think, here's what I love. I love Common Ground, and I love the idea behind it, because, when we founded, when we said that we want to do this, we want Common Ground to come together, what are we trying to do? And it was to teach really nothing. It was to share a journey. All of us are going through stuff in life, problems, we go through joys, we go through it all. And we need each other to go through it. And so I think that Judy and I, as leaders, share our journey, and we're pretty open. I have to say, probably too open sometime with our lives, because we share our journey when we fail, when we, and I don't really think there's a failure, but when there's, things that are difficult, we'll go ahead and share it. And when there's our joys, about it. And we know about yours, usually, if you come to the classes and things. And I think that's what we wanted to do with Common Ground, was to be able to, just be on the journey together in community, learning from each other of what works, what doesn't. Mm-hmm. And I don't think that's what a cult is. I don't think that's even what a church, there's a question in here about, are we a Christian church? Which is interesting. If you want us to be, we are, and if you don't, we aren't. Because the truth is, what's a Christian? If you ask, my brother is a Mormon, and he says he's a Christian, but, and
my family would say he's not.
Yeah, I was going to say, but most people that identify as Christians say the Mormons are Christian. When I had a sister one time that was a Jehovah's Witness at one time. She was not now, but she would be identified not as a Christian. So what's a Christian, but a label. So, what Common Ground is founded on one belief that we are all a piece of God, right? And that, we reach it by conscious contact, by being able to to know that inside of us is something powerful and relying on that, not a power outside of us. So that's kind of, the idea that Common Ground was founded on. And,
It's interesting because this morning as I was going through my Facebook, I ran across a post by my niece, who is a fundamental Christian. And she said, this is, the headline said, this is the most important video you'll ever see about Israel. And I thought, well, that's interesting. I'm going to check this out. So I started listening to it, and I went, oh, wow, this is interesting. Now, she comes from a Christian fundamental perspective. And our topic today is whose truth is it? And none of that was my truth. And I thought, okay, I'll just let this go. Except that I noticed that some people who had not suspended intelligence, who were wise individuals, had commented, and one of them was a relative of hers, not a relative of mine, but a relative of hers who's a very brilliant man. And he just blasted the facts around, the true facts. There are facts, and then there's something else. There are beliefs. The facts of the matter of territorial rights and all this other junk, right? And I was thinking, it was so interesting. So for the first time ever, I responded to my niece. But what I did was I tried to stay in a loving place that represents what Common Ground's about. And so I noticed as I was reading through the text as I was watching this video, this individual who claimed to be highly intelligent and a scholar in this field was using the word Muslim, M-O-S. Okay, and at first I thought, well, you're an idiot. You don't know how to spell. That's really seriously. I'm thinking, well, how much validity can there be here? You don't even know how to spell. But the truth is, I looked up that word, and that word is a valid word. That Muslim spelled with an O, Muslim. It's an antiquated form, and guess what else? When it's used now, today, it's used in an offensive, derogatory manner. And I thought, you know what? A little bit more research into this best video on Israel would have revealed that perhaps, now I didn't say anything other than in my opinion, I would question any information coming from a person who's using Muslim spelled like this, because it's a derogatory, offensive word for people of that faith. So I didn't call her wrong or criticize her. I just pointed that out. But what came to me about this, whose truth are we talking about here? Whose truth? And it just really, it triggered me.
Yeah, no, I get that, and I love the idea, and we stay on this topic forever, we'll go on, but the truth is that everybody's got a truth, right? Everybody's got a truth, and our job as spiritual, people, that are trying to see a bigger truth is to step out of that and to see it broader, to get out of a limited awareness. See, it's all about this consciousness. It's about awareness, and our job is to maybe see it all, but then step above it and see, everybody's perspective. Everybody's perspective is valid. And that's a hard thing to do, and I think 80% of the people can't do it. And that's what our call is to be able to step out of our own limited boundaries and see it all. Don't you?
Yes, and you know what? I'm just realizing, do you know that almost every question in here is dealing with this?
It is?
Exactly what we're talking about?
What, Christians?
No.
Oh, mine says something about another one about Christian. What?
It's how to live your life, how to live your own truth, which is that we're all one. I'm guessing that what we believe here, that there's one God, that we're all one, that we're all a manifestation of that. How do we live that while we're living and working, surrounded by people and situations who I see lots of heads nodding. I'm telling you, the first 5 questions here are all a variation on that theme. How do we live our highest self when all of this is happening?
Yeah, mine too. You're right. So that's good, and we'll have a great discussion about that. I mean, that's the truth. We all have problems, and life sucks sometimes, and we want to be, good people, and we want to awaken, and it's hard. So tell them, Judy, how to do that.
Okay, my brain's clicking. This is all spontaneous. Okay, so how about this? One of the 5 things that we teach is that no matter what we know, no matter what truth we believe we know, if we cannot walk it in the world and demonstrate it, we're not there yet. Can we start with that? So when I have to be honest, back to this Muslim thing, I have to be honest. When I wrote my response to my niece as kindly as I could, I had to edit it after I wrote it, and I took off like the last 2 sentences because I said things like suspending intelligence and those things. And then, but you know what? Right, 2 things. I didn't want to cause a problem in my family, which I probably already did. But I did not want to be mean-spirited and go there. I didn't need to go there. I know that's the truth for me. I don't need to point that out to anybody else. And so I took that off. To me, that's what this is about. How can we stand in our own truth? All we need to do is know our own truth for ourselves.
But Judy, this is good because what you did is pretty normal, and I think we all do this, is that our first response is a reaction, right? We react when we see something that bothers us with our families, with anybody. Our first thing is, what? And so that's a common. And then our next step then, as people on the path, is to take a breath, because the breath is important, and step back and respond. And that's what you did. You by deleting the stuff, then you took back and you responded. So we're used to reacting to everything, and that's our old animal brain. But we have a new brain now, and we have a choice on how we respond to people instead of react. And that's what you did. I'm proud of you, girlfriend.
Well, there you go. Well, I think that's important because so often things trigger us. We get really triggered, and it's to be able to be present enough and remember the truth enough of who we are and the other person. Everybody's got their own journey. And these systems, these thought systems, for one reason or another, fit these folks and their journeys. And we have to respect that and honor that. At some point in time, maybe things will change and they'll get a new journey. They'll get a new way of seeing things. But right now, for my family in particular, this is their path, this is what they believe, this is how they live their life. Is it compatible with my poor mom and me? Probably not. We're always, we went to a funeral and got just bombarded by hell and damnation and devil and Satan and cult and everything else. Very directly, we were the only ones that weren't fundamental Christians that were sitting in the audience. And it was uncomfortable, wasn't it, Mom? Yeah. But we didn't get up and walk out. We didn't lash out. We didn't say anything. We knew who we were. We knew who common ground is, because there was a lot of bashing, not directly but indirectly, and we just we tried to walk our talk, and that's all we could do, is walk our talk and know who we are. And you know what? I like what the Course of Miracles says. In my defenselessness is my strength. There's nothing to defend.
And the thing is, just your song, How Can I Love You More? See, it's hard. You know what I'm saying? At that same time that this is all going on with people in your life, how can I love you more? That's what it is. It's a call for love. Everything is. Remember you said I would say that.
I know.
But I always do. I believe that with all my heart. Okay, I love this one, Judy. This is for you. Is there a God? Is there a God? And should I care? And must I do something? Or can I just be? Can I just be?
You know what? I've got that same question here.
Yeah.
Somebody wrote that very same question over here.
So
is there a God?
Let's talk about that. That is interesting.
Well, absolutely. I believe there is a God. Is it out there? No. Is it definable? No. Do words do it justice? No. Can we touch it? No. Can we define it? No. Describe it? No. Can we know it? Yes. So is there a God? My answer is absolutely yes. It is unique. It is personal. It is everywhere present, and it's within. And it's the kind of thing that defies really discussion. And of course it's the basis of an awful lot of trouble in the world right now.
Yeah.
Because people like to see God looking a certain way, or called by a certain name, and having certain rules for certain people. And that God, for me, there is no God like that. That God does not exist for me.
Yeah.
How about you?
Well, I think that I always say I see stuff as energy, and And I know that there's God, here. And like you said, once you talk about it, it's not anymore because it changes the whole thing when you start to talk about it. But I always see it as this, that we have, it's all, okay, I'll say awareness maybe instead of energy. It's consciousness. And there's this real restricted consciousness, which isn't God, but it's one. This is kind of technical, but if we always say, like in the prayer, sometimes I'll say there's one power and there's one presence in the universe. So that means there's only one thing. So it's all God, but it's all at different levels, see? And there's this restricted awareness, which is God too, but maybe it's not God. Maybe it's just restricted awareness. That's what I mean. And then as you open up and you start to love and you start to be kind, and it changes this whole energy within you until there's something so powerful and so joyful that's God. And that's the soul too. Somebody wrote about soul in here. And to me, when we hit that piece of awareness, when we feel it, there's just this overwhelming, loving energy where you just want to love somebody. We just want to, do you know what I'm saying? I'm not exactly articulating it. You can probably articulate it better, but do you know what I'm saying? Is that the energy is God. It's not a person. It's not anything out there. It's the love inside of you that you feel, when I'm with my grandkids and my kids, and when I see the flower, when I saw somebody laugh out there, I felt this feeling. And that feeling to me is God. That's what God is. And everybody's got it. Nobody's got any more God than anybody else.
And I think that the trick with this question is that when we hear the word God, especially when we're living in a sort of a Eurocentric, Catholic, Protestant, Christian sort of environment, Judaic, Christian thing, we think of God in a certain way, and depending on our background, we're going to give different attributes to this energy that God is. But the truth of the matter is, every one of us, if we believe what we say or teach, that we're all an expression of that. Like Mother Teresa, I see the face of Jesus in everyone. So the idea is God is only present when I recognize the Godhead in everybody, in everything. So if I'm not recognizing it, there is no God. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
If I'm not conscious enough to recognize, especially this is hard when stuff. It's easy to see it in each other, right? But what about when stuff happens? And some of the questions in here are about, why does God let horrible things happen? Well, when these things happen, it's really hard to go, yeah, that's all God. That's all God. All these tragedies, these dramas that take place in the world, that's all God. Well, that's harder, a whole lot harder. Those are experiences that are much more difficult to embrace as the energy of this divine energy playing itself out. But in fact, the world is full of chaos. We came about as a result of chaos. The world was birthed, the earth was birthed as a matter of chaos. Hello?
Okay, no, I was thinking about that. I like to think about, well, that's one of the questions too, is about choice, our choice, in life. We have choices, whether we, how we want to be. So do we create our life, or is it created for us? And I have to say, for sure, I believe that we are responsible for how we respond to the stuff in our life. I don't know if we've created every single piece of our life. I think we have actually co-created together and created our lives, and we get to respond choose how we respond to it.
I like one of these, the second part of a question, because it's the same question we're talking about. But the question is, how do we not feel the horrible pain of others daily, hourly, and always when we look at the things that are going on in the world, in our own families? And I say that we do feel it. We do feel pain. That's where our compassion comes from. That's when we're awake to the suffering of the world. We have to recognize it, and we have to feel it, and we have to allow it to move through us in an appropriate way. Whether we're talking about personal tragedy, death of loved ones, health issues, financial collapse, whatever those things might be, we have to feel the pain because we're in a human condition. That's what our entire work here is, to embrace that human aspect that knows what pain feels like, that knows what sorrow feels like, that knows what sadness feels like. And at the same time, and this is the trick, how do we tap into that other aspect that knows our divinity and knows that, there's a divine plan here, a divine dance, and be able to allow that pain to transmute itself and move through us so that it doesn't get stuck, because if it gets stuck, all that happens is we create more pain. We create more pain for ourselves, and then we can't be as effective in the world and as beneficial in the world as we would otherwise be if we're collapsed under the pain of the suffering of the world. Because there's a lot of suffering in the world. We have to care. We have to have compassion. We have to feel the pain. And, like you say, Glenda, we have to move on. We've got to allow it to just inform our journey and embrace the world and do what we can do what is ours to do.
It's such a paradox. Life is just a paradox altogether. I mean, it's like we, especially what we're saying, sometimes I'm hearing it sounds like we're contradicting things, but the truth is that we are on this journey, and when there is pain, when you go through the pain of life, you got to feel it. You can't just pretend it's not there. But yet, how long are you going to feel it and be, depressed and down, and how long do you feel it, I guess, is one of the questions actually said that. And that is a paradox, and I used to, think about this a lot, is that, shouldn't I be over this now? I keep bringing up, and how long am I going to camp out in this negative feeling that happened 10 years ago? And so I think that it's up to each one of us, is different of how long we're going to mourn, we're going to be at this place. But there comes a time when you have to let go then. You just got to let go of the stuff. If it becomes a record that's running over and over, and it happened like the reading in the beginning, if you're mad at your mother 20 years ago still, and your dad, and your partner from something years ago, it's time to get over it. It's time to let go and then be able to say something new. It's time to be able to live your life differently, and that's a huge paradox, I think, in our way of thinking too.
Absolutely. Anger, one of the questions is about anger, and it's all about this thing. How do we deal with anger when it arises, when we're seeing all this stuff happening? Because anger is often associated with the feeling of pain that we have when we see the suffering in the world. We get angry. How could that happen? How can this be God? How can these horrible things happen in the world? You know what? As far as I'm concerned, I don't know. I don't know why stuff happens. I don't know. It just happens. It's just part of the play of the universe, all this drama that takes place. I think it happens to take us to a more refined place eventually than we are. Even though we've had these horrible things in the past, World War II, and then this and that and that. It seems like it just doesn't end, doesn't it? It seems like it keeps getting worse and worse
and
and worse.
And it won't until we change our consciousness.
That's right.
That's the deal. It has to start with us.
That's right. And the anger that we feel, we've got to find a way to transmute that so that it becomes a more skillful response to whatever's going on, so that we can actually be effective. And, we can't be mad at a whole culture. We can't be mad at a whole country. We can't be mad at a whole religion. We've got to find a way to come to a place of peace, of inner peace, so that we can move forward in a happy way in our life experience.
Yeah, and it kind of boils down to just looking at ourselves. Where are we? What do we feel? Know thyself. And once you start to realize and step back and see your own thoughts and how you respond or how you react, it changes everything.
That's right. I think that one of the questions in here has something to do with, having a sense of well-being in the world. I don't know. I guess that's one of my things. About happiness. And the thing is, I think there's a difference between cultivating peace, a peaceful perspective, and cultivating happiness, because happiness really is all about just a total acceptance of the way things are. and then doing our best within that. And this is about living our divinity, living the best God self that we can within our experience. And when we have that sense of connection with all that is, then this is where not only our sense of peace comes from, but it gives us the capacity to experience joy. Because if we focus on all the stuff of life, this painful stuff, all around us in our personal lives and in the world, it's almost a dichotomy. How can we be joyful? But I do believe that joy is such a divine quality, and we've all got access to that, and it's about seeing with a deeper awareness, so that we can see beyond. Doesn't mean that we negate any of it. It doesn't mean we shove it away. It just means that we know that the world is complicated and complex, and there are difficult things to embrace, and we can experience the joy that God is within that experience. We have that capacity.
Yeah, I think so too. I think our job as spiritual people is to, I don't even like spiritual people, just as people, is to be able to be bigger than our situation, be bigger than our problems that we have, because there's a teaching by, I can't think who it is, but about the bigger container. You become a bigger container, and that's that. You see more God. When you have a problem, see more God. Think upon God is the way that I think Ernest Holmes says it, or Emma Fox. Think upon God. So when you've got stuff going on, see it bigger, think upon it. And when you start to change what you're thinking about, your whole awareness starts to shift. And it's kind of like, we were talking about being numb, and we think that some people think that an inner peace, am I numb, or is it just inner peace? And the truth is that, if you don't know, it's probably numbness. Because if life is supposed to be joyful, I believe that. I mean, you're going to go through stuff, but I think that we get up in the morning and if we're on the path and we have dealt with stuff in our life, joy is what we are. Joy and happiness is what we are. That's why we're here. Yeah, there's a lot of stuff going on, but if we're just numb, that's not good enough. That's not good enough for life. We're here for something big. And we have such magnificence inside of us that there is no way that we're here to be numb. So if you're numb, then don't be. Don't be numb, okay? Then work on it, because that's, or look at it, I guess, because I've been numb too. Believe me, I'm passionate about that, because I put covers over my head and been numb before, and that's no way to live. Yeah, was I peaceful? Yeah, but I was numb under the covers. And that isn't any way to live. You want to feel life, whether it hurts like hell, or you're jumping for joy. That's life.
I think somebody in one of our classes calls it juicy living, this total connection with life, where it's all really, really allows it to touch you.
Yeah.
It reminds me of that teaching. Do we wake up in the morning and say, "Good God, another day"? Or do we wake up and say, "God, good, another day"?
Good morning, God.
Good morning,
good
God.
Morning. Is it good God morning?
Is that what it is?
Yeah, is it good God morning or good morning, God?
Yeah.
You get the choice of how you're going to do it,
Yeah,
how we're
yeah.
going to live. So it is all about choice and stuff, and it's about living your best life. I can't believe it's 11:30.
I can.
See, I could talk to you all I like this.
Thank you for sharing your questions. I think it's really interesting. We are one mind. We've all got the same essential questions. How do we get along in the world with our way of thinking, and how do we put our best self forward when so much of the world is thinking differently than we do? And I commend all of you for your bravery, being in a community, a spiritual community that is not defined, not an offshoot of any religion, that is not, doesn't have any rules, doesn't have any liturgy, doesn't have any dogma, doesn't have any doctrine, doesn't have any hierarchy. This is a complete leap of faith, and I commend all of you.
It
for
has two
doing
male
this.
agents as ministers.
Yeah, there you go.
What kind of people are you? Thank you, everybody. Thank you.